All right, so got that knock set retied. I burnt it, made sure it kind of made a little knot, flattened it out as much as possible to get it out of the way. That way we don't get a super squeeze from the D-loop. But I've been having issues with the D-loop material just because it stretches way too much when it's not pre-stretched. But I like it a lot. It's just that pre-stretched stuff. People keep telling me, oh, it's already pre. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes you're gonna do like that 1.25 inch length, and when you put it all together and it's nice and tight and everything, you pull it and it's way longer. So I'm trying to find that happy medium to where it's at, but I think I have an idea to try this, which I've seen a bunch of people do it a bunch of different ways. So, but of course, we just fray it out as much as possible. These ones I like to make huge. Like, I don't know, it just gives me a little bit more peace of mind that more than the average little end piece is held together. Some of the other knots, because I use the same knot tie for the D-loop, as well as, you know, when I tie in other drop away rests or other things like that, I just feel like it's one of those knots that locks in so good that why should it matter? But that's all frayed up, and then just give it a good little burn. I know some people like to set it on fire. I like to kind of create my thing first. Get it nice and hot, nice and hot. Some people just start it on fire, which that's fine too, as long as it creates that big round thing. And then I kind of let it try to mushroom out a little bit. It's kind of one of those things that it's hard to see it, but a little bit more of a mushroom than a flat spot. That way it's got a good head on it when you tie it up. But let's see which way do I want to do it. I do want it on the top, so facing me. The other thing I noticed is when you do the tiny D-loops and people just cut it beforehand, I'm not getting a great feeling about it whenever I pull it through. Like right now, I'm trying to set this bottom one to where it would lock flat as possible. That's really what I'm looking for. It's really hard to kind of see from that angle. I'll try to zoom it in, but I like nice and flat how that is just to start with, and then I just kind of sit here and mess with it until I get it as tight as possible to where I'm comfortable. Plus, like I said, I'd like to take some of that extra slack out beforehand, so I try to get it not to where it's tight. I don't want it to be already cinched down, because that little extra bit that you need is that quick tightness that you do right before you do all that stuff. But as you can see, giving that extra little material helps me pull it a little easier. At least when you're doing it the way I want to do it. I want it to be without too much slack. I know there's still just a little bit where that that burnt end is going to be there just a little bit, because I want enough of it that when I do finally cinch it down, it doesn't get in the way, but I also want it to still kind of alleviate that a little bit. All right, let's do a little wrap on the other side. So, and it may take a few practices, but see how big that initial D-loop could start out as? You don't want that. You want to take all that slack out and make it nice and tight. I actually prefer a much smaller D-loop. I'm sure there's much better ways of doing this, but I like using the full material to get it as tight as possible. For me, I already know that once I cinch that down all the way, I'm going to create more space easily going to be another 1/2 inch of space. And I think about that little 1/2 inch. If I'm okay with it being a 1/2 inch or a little shy of a 1/2 inch, that's where I'm comfortable with it being cinched down. So it looks almost too short. So whatever I want it to be, I want it to double in size, but that means like every time I tie it, I want it to be fairly tight to begin with, because it just has so much extra on there that you don't even account for when you stretch that material. And even if you did do what I did and I try to stretch the material beforehand, I go ahead and still try to tighten it as much as possible, because I want a short one, but I don't want it too short. I want it like that. That's pretty close, because I want it to grow double that size at the very least. And I've done this a few different times, and it usually comes out perfect. The last one I did, I had to cut it a little bit short, and I was using old material, and that just didn't work out. But cool thing with some of that extra material, you just pull it, get it to where you're comfortable or where you feel like that's going to give you the most of what you're looking for. I don't want it to go too crazy, but I want it lined up best as possible. So, all right. Ooh, and I tied it. Well, I messed that up anyway, because I tied it the same way as the bottom. I was like, that's looking a little too familiar. Went the wrong way. All right. See, that's another good thing when you don't cut it too short and tighten it right away. Make sure you tie it on the wrong side. That'll help you out. So, there we go. And you know, it does matter, so it's better to just go back and try again. Now that that's on the correct side and the vice versa side, I'm going to try to line this up a little bit more beforehand, because I like where my D-loop is sitting currently. I think it's in a good spot. I want to get this cinched down a little bit more. She's got a little bit more slack than I care to have again, but that's okay. It takes a little bit of a process to make sure. So I don't want it too long. I want a nice short D-loop. I don't mind a nice short D-loop. So once it's close to being cinched down the same way, because I do have just enough slack in that one to reset it, get it close enough, and then I'll look at this one. I still think I got too much in that one. I'm going to take it out. There we go. I think that's probably going to do me fine. I want it to look like a tiny little D-loop whenever I first start it. Some people like it to be extra tight and have a tiny little D-loop. I want mine to be small, but I don't want it to be extra small. I can't. I had that other one on there, and I tightened it to where it looked almost straight up and down between the two knots, and it was just too much. I think I was just a hair off, and I think I'm good here. But I want to get this dialed in no matter what. This is going to be my hunting rig, and I just want to make sure she's in top form. I've already had to do some other major adjustments. This sight was set up, and then I had a professional look it over and make sure that it was good. They made a very minor adjustment, but they did not tighten down the set screw correctly. So I got it out of the bag, got home, got it ready to set up and shoot, and it was leaning way off one direction. I couldn't even see through the target. I was like, what's going on here? This had kind of pushed its way either in or out to where I couldn't even see my pins anymore. But I redone it, and it's fine now. I squared it all up and tightened everything down. That would be my only complaint so far, is that, you know, obviously that was somebody else's error, but at the same time, when they put in that extra axis adjustment on the newer sights, because this is the XV3 and it's the Nitrix Pro, this has been out already for a little while, but when they added that for that extra adjustment, which is super nice to have, they also created possibly a weak point in their sight, possibly. But I tightened everything down. I made sure everything's kind of nice and torqued, not over torqued, but just a little bit, just to make sure I don't have that issue again. But now get back to the D-loop. Let's see what comes out of that. Again, you don't want to get too crazy and cut it too short, but you also don't want to add that extra little bit if you can help it, because that's what's going to add to that D-loop stretch. So you want just a little nubbin to give you that nice mushroom, but you also don't want to go too short. So that's why a lot of people actually burn them beforehand, but that's pre-measured. This one I wanted to adjust just a little bit to the way I like it. You can pre-measure and cut them every time, and you'll have the exact same D-loop, which is fine if you're doing mass, you know, bows or whatever, and you're not doing any kind of like custom tuning or anything like that. This one, I set it up for a certain setup. I like a shorter release, and that helps me with my draw length by just adjusting a hair. Like I said, I like to fray that out pretty decent, just enough that I can get a hold of it if I need to and pull it back through. Side by side, that's looking pretty perfect right now. I hope I got it just right. So I might have got it a little too short, but that's okay. I wanted it tight. Not the D-loop itself, but the little mushroom that I'm gonna create real quick. But that'll lock that in pretty easy. And you do want to be careful. You don't want to melt that to itself. You just want to have that little head on it so that it locks in there real good. There we go. We shouldn't have any issues now. I am seeing that I'm going to have some minor stretch, but we're going to put this knock on there and make sure it doesn't squeeze together too much. Past that, I like that fit for that now, and that's so much better, way better. Just wanted to leave a hair in between there, and then I'm hoping that squeeze doesn't jack that up. All right, and then once you're done, make sure everything's nice and tight, nice and square, the way you want it. I've been having some D-loop issues, so what I'm actually going to do now is pull that off because it looks perfect. I'm gonna make sure all this stuff is realigned. All right, because I've got plenty on that one. All right. That's gonna stretch nice. Squish them together a little bit. I'm gonna get a good pull off of this one. All right, and then I'm trying to line up my string to my D-loop a little bit. That should be all right though. Right there. Still haven't tied it in, but that's because I wanted to get this right first. Make sure I've got a good length on it. These things are pretty awesome for just those quick little details. I like to pre-cinch it, get it the way I want it. That way both are kind of squeezing at the same level beforehand. And then I also know that everything's kind of coming together the way I want it, nice and tight. Just to get that extra little bit out of it first. All right. See that little bit of pre-tension to get it snugged up the way I want it. And hope to goodness that that's not pulling through. It doesn't look like it's pulling through, but either way, if it does, then you just gotta retie it and start over. So it's all good. But line it up as much as you can with your peat on the string. Relax it, make sure it's fairly close. I like to be just on the inside because when you pull it straight, it'll pull that to be straight. Just a hair. I think we're there though. Just on the outside. And hope to goodness that pinches the way I had it. It looks like it will. And then give it a good squeezer. So, and that's what you end up with. You should have a pretty decent little D-loop that's not too long but not too short, right in the middle. Mine, I don't tend to have a very long D-loop. That's about where I want it, midway. So we'll see how that goes, because that's a rough one. It's right on that edge. But it's a little shorter at least, because some of these other ones are real short or real long, depending on what kind of release you're using. But I think that's gonna be just about perfect. But I'm hoping that didn't get too crazy. Here. Oh yeah. Yep. Way better fit. That's like, that might just be damn near perfect, I hope. And I have it right where this is. Once you've done it, it should be cinched pretty well, but just in case, because you are putting more stress on it, and you want to be careful with your knock sets, not to squish them. But that's it. That's there, boys. That's it. So, again, you can make it much shorter. I tried it. I'm not super fond of it. I went with just kind of a medium. It still looks a little on the large side, but I like it right where it's at. I think my first D-loop was a little bit too big, and it definitely was squishing my arrow. So I did go with a slightly different setup. I went ahead and tied it in with the big knock set on the bottom and then a light one on the top. And it kind of gives my lighted knock a little bit of space. The bottom, I wanted it to lock in so that I'm getting that straight flight, but I wanted to give me a little room to breathe right there. And that top knock set is super tight, but it's not going anywhere. So it gives you a little room to breathe. I'm really digging that. I'm kind of excited now because I thought about it. I've tied a couple of them already using the same knock sets, and it just wasn't jiving. But I like that little bit of smaller twine on there. It seems to give it that little bit of room to breathe. The bigger one on the bottom gives it plenty to keep it from going anywhere. I'm digging it. I like it a lot. I think that's going to be excellent. That's a good D-loop. I like it. I think I'm going to be doing exactly what I need it to do. Next step will be tying that in, because I think this is set up. I reset it up. I adjusted the sight. I had to make sure that after the loose bolt situation, that it was back to being adjusted on its first, second, third axis. And then also when I'm leaning it forward, that I'm still level and downrange, looking downward if I'm taking a downward shot, and then an upward shot as well, which I've done all of them. That one I need to reset up as well. I was messing with it and I started having some issues, but I think it was also to this being an issue. That knock set that I tried just didn't work with that one either. It cost me at a shoot, so it was one of those things that I was pretty upset about. You know, a lot of people don't shoot lighted knocks at a shoot anyway, but because it's part of my testing and trying to get through it and see if I want to use them, I tried it and it was awful. I got one of my lowest scores in a long time, but that's on me. I'm glad it wasn't like super weighted or anything like that, but at the same time, it cost me not adjusting that on that bow. I went ahead and adjusted the new bow. I say the new bow, it's an old bow, and I'm adjusting that one. I've been messing with the Bowtech for a little bit, and I think I'm super happy with the consistency and the results. Not only that, I got it down, you know, way down on weight as far as the draw cycle. It still has speed like crazy, but it's a good setup for what I want to do, and eventually to make it a primary 3D / indoor bow. That that one as well, the Hoyt RX8 Ultra, was also probably going to be one of those things that I set up as a primary 3D setup, but having those issues kind of lost me a little faith in it. But I think it has a lot to do with the knock. The knock set was just not correct for that setup, and it cost me. So you know, you just want to make sure that your knock sets are fitting whatever you're putting on there. It did fit. It fit perfect. I had it done multiple times already, and it just wasn't quite right. And then I went ahead and just said, hey, either leave the top one completely off or put a very small amount of another twine at the top, and that'll give you that little bit that you're looking for. They're not anything special, you know, by any means, but they have a weird fatness to them. They're supposed to be pretty much the same size as the X-Knock or whatever comes on the Axis arrows, and they're just not exactly the same. So I would say if you're going to use these or any lighted knocks at all, you need to make sure that your knock sets fit correctly. And to say fit correctly, I put it in knock sets multiple times, easily done that multiple times, and it did not like those. Now this one has been the best feeling so far as the knock sets go, and I'm really hoping that makes a huge difference, but we'll see. We'll mess with them some more and come up with this stuff, but yeah, I'll mess with it. Thanks, guys.